once the lady tells us what's up, she's got it right there. I mean, there she is telling us what we're doing here. So season 1, episode 13 of United in Green. I'm Mike. Glad to be back with all you guys. Again, we have our returning champion. This week, our returning champion is Tyson. How you doing, Tyson?
I mean, it's thunder and lightning, but now there's a beautiful sunset outside of my window in Essex. Uh, I'm not going to complain. It's not terrible. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it could be Monday.
It could be Monday. And also, much like the rest of the poor state of Vermont, there are many communities that are dealing with all this flooding and other stuff that's going on. So I consider myself very, very lucky that I'm up here in a nice high plateau by the Winooski River and not having to deal with some of the terrible side effects of all this rain that we've been having.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awful. I had a number of friends who were affected by it, but what are we going to do? The weather patterns are changing. This is part of what our club is fighting against, right? Is fighting against the progression of global climate change, and fighting for climate justice. So climate justice doesn't just affect the quote unquote third world countries or the people who have the least. It really affects all of us, and it can affect all of us, and especially in our state. And I think it's good to remember that. We also have Tyler here today again, and he's the creator. So let's give him a little airtime too.
Again, you sound so disappointed. Oh no,
I've had a rough week, and
it's him.
It's me. It's just me.
Yeah, man, glad to be back. Much love to the state of Vermont and everybody dealing with the fallout from the rains and the flooding, and it's awful, man. And there are a lot of communities that need our help. I think our supporters group is figuring out what we can do to help each other within the group, and also extend those efforts to other people in our community. So keep an eye out for some fundraising stuff, and we'll let you know what we're doing out and about. But yeah, man, much love to all y'all who are dealing with this awfulness. I used to have like a sympathetic take on why people might not believe in climate change, and it was kind of like, oh, it's just like too big and too abstract of an idea. But now it's like you see it every month in some form, whether it's in your own home state or just like insane weather patterns and events happening around the world. It's happening all around you, and to still sort of be in denial about what it is crazy. And again, shout out to the club for trying to make the message as clear as possible. Like, this is real. It's something that needs to be addressed like ASAP. So yes, sir.
Yeah, outside of that, actually within that, any kind of fundraising that the boys are going to try and do, or that the club is going to try and do, you should probably plug the Vermont Disaster Relief Fund with that for anybody suffering from the effects of this storm, or wants to help out too. But stay tuned to the Green Mountain Boys Twitter feed, and social media, as well as ours and Vermont Greens, but also the Vermont Disaster Relief Fund. So
yep.
Anybody's out there suffering, there is some help out there. So let's get on to even more terrible shit that happened with our football club. Not more terrible, but other terrible things that happened with our football club this week. We had a couple of rough games. It seems that every time we get going and we get that train going, we hit a rock on the tracks. I would like Tyler to get us going, because we had an away day, and
we did.
We had a great gathering of folks, and I took a ride down with our good friend Tom and Ryan. And we had an adventure on our own, an adventure on the way home. But I'll let Tyler take it away with the sights and scenes at Lusitano Stadium.
Yeah, this is the first proper away day that we've had. I mean, I know folks have traveled to other games and smaller groups, which is awesome, but like this was their first real, I think, full strong showing for Vermont Green away fans, and it was awesome. I'd say there's about 20 or so of us. A lot of folks came down from Burlington, some from Southern Vermont, some from the surrounding Massachusetts area who happened to be fans or just knew of the club. And we met a lot of really nice people who had made the journey, like, short and long distances. And it was great, man, just to see like a little square of green, very vocal, very loud, but small square of green, and this sea of red was really cool. I think you'd hear it on the stream. I know we were right behind the players and coaches, so they could hear us, and it was just really cool. Lusitano is an awesome old stadium, a lot of history there. You can tell it's like really plugged into the local Portuguese community. The folks we met, the Western Mass fans, super nice. One of our guys threw out his wallet or needed cash, I guess, and someone just bought him the beers. Had nice chats with people leaving the stadium on the way into the stadium. A lot of kids running around. Got into a bit of banter with the local marching band who was there, which was which was awesome. The whole thing was awesome. The result wasn't. We can get into sort of the officiating and the result unto itself, but like as far as like this fan base and this club go, it was just great to see and be part of a proper away day. And look, I'm excited for next season, where I think this will maybe be a more regular occurrence, and it's a blast.
I gotta say, I loved that stadium. I thought it was like, it was proper football. I mean, it was a cool stadium, a great setup. I liked the Portuguese club across the street, the social club. The one thing that I didn't enjoy so much was the fact that I get that it's an old stadium and they want to keep it that way, but it's cash only. You gotta tell folks, or have an ATM on site, not have to march people across the street to the club. But that's fine. I heard it.
Vibe.
I heard the club was bumping. So I was one of the two that went up to grab beers, and the Western Mass fan bought the beers for us. It was wonderful. Everybody there was very welcoming. They were super impressed with our team. And actually, one of the guys that I had talked to earlier as I was walking out, he had said that his team did not deserve the win.
Hats off for honesty.
Yeah. He said we got jobbed by the referee. I mean, and we did. So, I mean, I know on United Green, we don't necessarily like to talk about the referees, because they're working men too. But in my estimation, you're paid to do a job. You're getting paid to do the job. You go out there and you do that job. And whether it's USL2 or whether it's Bundesliga, La Liga, the Premier League, MLS, you go out there and do that job. And whether it's to the best of your ability or not, I do not believe it was to the best of their ability. This week, especially, the officiating, it's hard to watch the officiating take the game away from the players. And it absolutely did. And the point of having the fourth official there is to be an extra set of eyes for the on-field official. And he was consistently and constantly eyes away from the ball, eyes away from the action, eyes away from any confrontation or anything that was happening on the field. And they let that game get out of hand. And that's where I kind of draw the line, is when the referees let the game get out of hand, because Western Mass was violent. Like, they were physical to the point of violence. And people are going to get hurt out there. And the referees, if they let the game get away from them, those are the things that can happen. And I did not appreciate it myself.
Tyson, what did you see on the stream? We were up close and personal with it, but and that can be good and bad in terms of perspective. But like, how did it play for the the non-present viewer?
Yeah, I mean, I was unable to get time off to be able to go down to the away day, which was a shame. Obviously, I would have loved to have gone. The boys were definitely vocal on the stream. We could hear you guys loud and proud. And I know that we don't, Mike's right. We don't like to, go and harp on the officials because obviously, it's USL2. It's one of the, it's a low division in the soccer pyramid here in America. And it does seem like it is, it's really hard to know that your team, whether it's our team, whether it's Western Mass, whether it's any of the other teams that are in our division, you're going out there, you're not only playing against your opponent who's actually on the pitch, but a lot of the times you've got your second stab in the back, which is the officiating. And it's, there was a game, there was a call in the Pathfinder game, which we haven't even gotten onto, which I think Tyler called a literal ruck, a rugby ruck happened in the Pathfinder penalty box.
Yeah.
It's an hold on penalty and just nothing. And, it's disheartening. It really is, and I get that Western Mass play a very defensive, very counterattacking, very shithousery kind of style. That's the way that they play. They can play that. But at the same time, if you're going to be playing that kind of game, the refs need to have a good handle on it to be able to pull in the reins and say, no, cut this shit out, start handing out cards, start calling fouls, and that just didn't happen.
It
Didn't.
Within the first 5 minutes or so, Yanni Vizzini got mugged at least twice off the ball. Not like in possession. He got fouled a couple times in possession early on as well. But once you get away with that sort of like off the ball manhandling and there's no repercussions and apparently like none of the officials even notice, you're like, cool, I've got clearance for the rest of the game. And like Mike said, things just got out of hand. And look, at some point it becomes even less about like the result for your team and more about just the safety of the players. It seemed like there were a lot of just dangerous moments because as you keep if you're a player and you keep pushing the envelope and you're getting away with shit, like you're going to keep pushing or keep doing it. And it's one thing to play like a defensive, physical game. It's another to sort of just like really overstep the bounds of what I think is generally accepted, like reasonable football behavior. So, I feel like I'm usually the last person to really criticize officiating, but this was some pretty egregious stuff. Mike, like officiating aside, we were front row. What did you see in terms of the actual playing, in terms of Vermont Greens attacking? It seemed like they were picking the ball around pretty well, but just couldn't finish the attacks.
I think it's the same thing that we've seen in each one of the losses. Like we have a lot of the ball. We pass well. I think because of the physicality of the game, lots of times these counterattacks happen a little closer to midfield. But as soon as Vermont started to attack again, they would recoil back into the box and play this over the top stuff, and it's not the sexiest type of football. I mean, trust me, I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan. I've dealt with it through Mourinho and Conte. So I know what it looks like when you're a counterattacking team and how boring it can be to watch. For the other fans, sure, a 1-0 win, a 2-1 win, it's fine. But the problem that we've had all season, and it seems to be, to me, and I'm going to preface this with the fact that I'm not a professional tactics breakdown analyst.
Now you tell us.
Yeah, right.
Tactics.
I'm not a tactics guy. And I, who the hell am I to talk shit about a coach or about a player, especially a college kid who's out there, playing some summer ball, trying to get looked at. But, it seems to be the same thing that we keep seeing with this team, is that when our full on attack isn't working, we're doing this thing where we're trying to bring the ball down the wings, and Tyson and I talked about it, and just pinging the ball into the middle, hoping for something to happen. That to me, and like I said, I've watched it through Tottenham Hotspur, is not the way that you're going to break down a team that parks the bus and tries to play over the top. Tottenham for years hasn't been able to break down teams that park the bus. We've lost to Burnley. I mean, it's what got Pochettino fired there. Like, if teams that can't break down those defensive or counterattacking teams are the teams that generally lose.
Yeah,
you're not successful, and it's the same thing that we've been doing over and over again as a club. And I'm not here to dig out Coach Pfeiffer, because he's probably forgotten more fucking football tactics than I've ever known.
but it is
I also think he got the not just the tactics of the game, but the game plan. I think he got it incorrect. I think when we're sitting there and getting lucky with balls going off the crossbar, balls going wide, we're lucky that Western Mass couldn't finish, because it could have very, very easily been 4-0. I think that when we're getting into the 75th minute and we're sitting there going, okay, we need to make the playoffs. Here's what we need. We need 4 points to make the playoffs. We should sit back right now against a team that's dangerous on the counterattack and play for the draw. We take a point out of here. We move on to Pathfinder and beat them, right? Instead, we kept on trying to attack, and we put on more and more attackers. And instead, we're putting on attackers instead of putting on defensive players. And I think that's where he got the tactics wrong. And, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Coach Pfeiffer is going to listen to this and be like, this guy's a prick. I am a prick, but that's just kind of the way I saw it. And I don't necessarily have to blow sunshine up everybody's butt all the time, but because I love this club, and I'm passionate about this club. This is the way that fans feel about their hometown and local clubs.
It has been just like a consistent issue and struggle, I think, is breaking down straight up defensive teams. Against other teams, we do fine. We scored 3 to 4, sometimes more goals, but like unlocking a purely defensive counterattack team is just still seems to be like a hit or miss proposition for us. And it's it's tricky, because you push too hard and you expose yourself, and you make yourself open to the counter, but at the same time, that's just our style, and it kind of seems to be what we stick with. And but what I think about Liverpool, and I feel like you need that sort of like midfield unlocking player, just has those sort of like through passes or those little moments of like brilliance where it's just like, oh, there you go, like that cut through past 2 defenders, like was like a not just like a pass to the outside, it was actually like cut back through the couple lines there. It's easier said than done, obviously, but it's just
you have
consistent issue. And I was talking to Daniel Nato this morning at soccer camp drop off, and I said, yeah, it seemed like they had like 11 guys behind the ball, and Nato was like, they had 11 guys in the box, and I was like, fair enough, this was a full-on defensive effort. Tyson, how does the team get through that? I mean, either this year or next year, like what are the strategic changes that you make to overcome those situations where a team just like, sure, we'll sit back and you can just throw everything you got at us?
I mean, that's the golden answer. You have that answer. You've got your Mourinho. Your excuse me, no, not Mourinho, your Pep. That's who you are. Not Mourinho. Mourinho wouldn't know an incisive pass if it, rolled right past his face.
You got to
But
drive the bus, not park it.
exactly, precisely. I mean, I think
He got rid of Christian Eriksen.
I know exactly. Right. And I think that, the Green are really lucky in the fact that we have some of the best dribbling and pure attacking talent on the ball with the ball at their feet in probably our entire division. You've got D'Agostini, you've got Zenge, you've got Bilal Kamal, you've got Nacho. All of these players great with the ball at their feet, running at man on man. I would bet on our guys 10 out of 10 times to go and dribble past their man. But that doesn't work when immediately after that one defender, you have two other guys who are right there in the box waiting to go and sweep things up. And I do truly, agree with both yourself, Mike, and Tyler that, like, the extent that we attack the ball in the midfield when the opposing team just goes and hoofs it out of their back line, we gobble up those balls so quickly, and there is such usually really good distribution from either Nate Jones or Musa Ndai that they just get that ball right back up there so quick that the defending team who's sitting back there in, we keep saying it, in a low block with two banks of four, they haven't even had time to move out of the opposing penalty area sometimes, and you're just right back where you were. And you don't have the opportunity to stretch that team out, open up space for passes to be able to go through. And we have some great passers of the ball on our team. Bilal Kamal is a great passer of the ball. Giorgio Probo, great passer of the ball. Nathan Messer, a great passer of the ball. But, it's so hard to be able to go and find that gap to, reach an incisive run through the middle of all these players who are just sitting there clogging the box. And I know that obviously a huge tenet of the way that the Green play is attack every ball, get to every second ball, make sure you're the first person there, recycle that ball upfield. But against other teams that want to play ball with us, we do really well because we've got a really good team. But against teams who are, Space Ghost, Western Mass, they just sit there. They're purely playing for points. They're doing park the bus. They're not teaching these college kids anything. Though I thought the whole point of this league was, development of these collegiate players, give them time to, stay sharp during the summer before they go back to their college team. What are some of these kids learning sitting in their penalty box?
What is a player like Max Murray learning sitting back there playing a center back position that he does not play when he's in college?
Truly.
He's just there playing that center back position because he's tall for them. And they only care about the end result. And the Sea Snails are big offenders of it. They're big offenders of that. And Western Mass is a big offender of it. They're a less offensive club, but their tactical setup is great. And it's great to play against a team like ours, who, another thing that we get caught up on is our defenders, our center backs are often, and even our wing backs are often pushed way up the field. So if there's a ball over the top and you get a cherry picking striker or a winger that's way faster than your center back can get back, you're in trouble, which happened to us a lot in that Western Mass game.
Well, and I was going to say that is exactly what happened in the game against Pathfinder. I know that we weren't on that yet, but it was it was a wet day at Pathfinder, and poor Musa and Dai had played truly probably the worst pass that he has played all season. It was super slow, going over towards thread gold. Number 7 on Pathfinder jumped on that ball, gobbled it up, was able to make a really good pass out to their striker. Our goalie was, he'd done his job. He had cycled the ball out. He was coming up to be towards the edge of the green box because that's where he should be, because he's probably so used to us getting the ball up the field so fast that he was just not prepared to deal with that. So in short, I do not have a good tactical answer for you, because the Green are very much, play. Let's use this metaphor. We're out on the field asking for, a wonderful, open and active dance between another team to go and play with us. And if that happens, we will kick the crap out of them. And that's great. However, against the teams that want to make it a mosh pit in front of their goal, that does not mesh very well.
Yeah.
I think the Pathfinder game, if we're moving on,
and we can get on to Pathfinder too.
Yeah, it's felt disjointed because for a variety of reasons. I think, I think that there was like a road issue on the way there, so the team got there late. The game started late. There's at least one or two like weather delays because we were living through end times here, and it just felt like a very sort of stuttering game. And that again, that the goal that we gave up. Well, first of all, let's start with the goal that we scored, which is like a wonderful cross from Nathan Messer. Great finish.
Who looks really good as an attacking midfielder, by the way.
What's that?
I said Messer looks really good as an attacking midfielder, by the way.
He could trend Alexander-Arnold his way into the midfield. I think it's but just a wonderful goal, just great movement, ball whipped across. We saw Messer doing that sort of like just nonstop in the friendly game against Jupiter, which was fun to watch. But his placement is just fantastic. Great first goal, and then just lack of focus mistake. Maybe it was the disruptions leading up to it. Who knows? But just another sort of one of those moments where you're like, better pass. The game's in a totally different situation. We had just the vast majority of possession. In the second half when we were chasing the win, tons of great chances. I think we were a little careless with our crossing in the second half. There's a lot of balls that were 5-10 yards overshot, but you're playing for the win and you're really pushing things, and these things happen. So but it seemed like compared to the Western Mass game, the pace of movement with the ball was much better. Like that was getting pinged around. Saw way more forward passes from Daniel Pacella in midfield, just like those like really good cutting passes that like just jump a line or two. It was a tough draw, but credit to Pathfinder for holding on. Like they played a solid defensive second half, and but yeah, I mean, these are games or moments, and you take away that one bad pass from that game and maybe a couple of individual mistakes from earlier games, and it's a totally different point situation. So
we should probably have mentioned too that like two of our biggest performers offensively were out for that game because of Knox picked up in Western Mass, right? So there was no Zachary Zange, there was no Yannick Bazzini, and it's not for lack of second choice or third or other options. We had other attacking options. They're just different players, right? I think Zach really gives you that guy who can run at people and open up passing lanes. He's a guy who's very good at shooting the deep ball. He's a guy who's good at uh, delivering from corner kicks, from deep crosses. He's good at driving the ball into the corners and crossing it in. Um, his passing is pinpoint. And then you have Bazzini, who I think I ended up at Vivid Coffee for the second half, and uh, who walks in at the beginning of the second half? Bazzini. Well, I didn't know he wasn't in the club because I didn't in the team because I didn't see the first half. I was with my son at a tryout, but I said, if you're sitting here, who's in the middle? And he's like, Nacho, but which is fine, but Nacho's a different player than Bazzini, and I think that even had Bazzini been there and put him in the second half, he might have gotten his head on maybe one or two of those crosses that kind of sailed over. But
more
I mean,
more options. Yeah,
there would have been it would have been a different look. I'm not saying it would have been a win because they're better players. I'm just saying it would have been a different look that you're throwing at a team.
Yeah. And I was real quick. I did make some notes as I was watching the stream, and one thing that again has kind of jumped out to me in watching a lot of these games, and I don't know if it's just that I notice it more when we're not at the game and singing along and chanting along, but we take so many like second and third touches either right at the outside, like if we're going and attacking that goal, we take so many extra touches either right outside the box or inside the box, where it should be receive the ball, turn, shoot. And again, I'm not a top level athlete. I'm an almost 40-year-old man who's got so many broken bones that I can barely ride a skateboard anymore. That's not, I will cop to that, but like I feel like there's a lot of extra time that's being taken that doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think that we do a wonderful job of getting the ball into really dangerous areas, and then to your point, take one to two too many touches or go for one more pass. Like puts us like a couple yards closer when we have some guys who are absolutely capable of putting some rockets on frame and just on, especially on like wet days, challenge the keeper. Like who knows what happens. Narrow path forward to the playoffs. The door is not shut, but just slightly closed. I'm going to be optimistic about this and say, as a lifelong Boston Bolts fan, I have faith. Ride the lightning, baby.
Yes.
You guys, what are your thoughts on us making the playoffs? And then are the playoffs important for a USL2 team? I mean, I remember being surprised the first year that there were playoffs. I was like, oh, that's a thing. Whereas, for without playoffs, I think you look at a season, your second season finishing, at worst, a very strong third with multiple sellouts, away days, widespread recognition, just a good overall experience. And you take that, right? And I think having playoffs kind of maybe skews our sense of what is important and what is what you expect. I mean, so let's open the floor. What do you guys think?
Okay, I know Tyson has some stuff to say about our competition coming up, and about USL2 in general. But I think that playoffs, I think that last year playoffs, when we found out there were playoffs and how we could get in, that was like, oh shit, cool. All right. Now it's on. and then winning the playoff game. I think maybe it was just kind of like we lucked into it, or we lucked into some decent players or decent play, or I mean, it could have been a number of things. I don't think that it's about luck anymore. I think it's about building this team, whether we make the playoffs or not. Like building the club, building the community, building the club around the community. That's what this is all about for me. Um, that's not to say I haven't been sitting here for friggin' 30 minutes being a fucking armchair quarterback or armchair striker, as it were. My old lady chair.
It's a
But
nice chair.
yeah, it is it's comfortable as hell. But I think that, like you said, narrow path forward. We need, the chicken of the sea to lose to lose to Boston Bolts, and I think it can happen. It's going to take a lot for it to happen. Um, we need to beat Boston City though, who is it's gonna be I think we're gonna get to play a lot of players we haven't seen this year. And knowing that Bazzini definitely has a knock, I would rather him not risk his college career on that kind of a thing. And play against a team like Boston City. Not to knock them, because I've looked on their website. They got a really cool website and they got some stuff. They got some stuff going on down there, but it's just that it's not translating on the pitch. And what we might think is the worst team in USL2 may not be, Tyson.
No, they are statistically the second worst team in the entirety of the USL2.
Oh, pray tell, who might that be?
The worst team is, in fact, drumroll please, North Alabama, who
That makes sense.
also has 1 point, much like Boston City, also has 1 point all season. However, Boston City has a goal differential of -39, whereas North Alabama has a goal differential of -41.
Ooh.
The North Alabama FC is not as good as the North Mississippi All-Stars, probably.
Probably not.
They're a fantastic band.
If we had to talk about, early 2000s straight edge hardcore bands, I could go and throw in some good clean fun, some My Revenge, but no, I don't get that reference. I don't.
I didn't figure either one of you would.
I got it.
But anyway, when it comes to the playoffs, much like you guys were talking about, I didn't know that there were going to be playoffs in the first year. And I think that it would be a very different conversation, at least in my mind, if the Green got to host playoff games at home. If we could do that, that would be amazing. And it was a really cool experience to, get the boys and the community together to go and watch some playoff games at Vivid Coffee. That was great. It's a great place to go to watch a game. But at the end of the day, again, it's the Green's second season in existence. I think that trying to expect us to be in a expecting to be in the playoffs in your second year of existence as, a big sports team in our city, in like the greater Burlington area in Vermont, it's probably one of the bigger teams that, we're basically competing with, all of the UVM teams and the Lake Monsters. I think that the Green are a great draw. We are continuing to build community. We've had a ton of sellouts this year. Games have been really well attended, even through some terrible weather this summer. Miserable weather this summer.
The worst summer in terms of weather I can remember since I moved here.
Right. that I think that even if we don't make it into the playoffs, I think that we can. There's no other way to look at the season other than a really big success. And I think that that's something that the club should be proud of, the players should be proud of, and especially the fans. Let's pat the Green Mountain Boys on the back. And everyone else who came out to these games, everyone's been spreading the love, spreading the word, talking about what a great experience it is to be a fan of this team and to, just kind of revel in this community that everyone's created. I think that that's great. And I think that that's something that, hopefully we can only increase and grow even more going forward.
To continue the band theme, I mean, I think about my time in a in a band and people sort of being like, what's the end goal? And it's like the end goal is to do this. And by this, I mean writing songs in some dingy practice space, playing shows for somewhere between at least 4 or 5 people, and when you get slightly more successful, maybe a couple hundred people. But you do it not for some like lofty end goal that you probably aren't going to make, like you getting signed, having a hit record, any sort of like major success. You do it because you love doing the thing. And for me, my perspective as a fan, as somebody who has met so many good people and made so many great connections just by being around this club, it's been an unmitigated success from year 1 to year 2. And what Vermont Green is trying to do in terms of their mission, I think, has been successful. What we've seen in terms of the community, the larger community around us, has been wildly successful. I've seen all sorts of connections made and new organizations plugging into the club, and people just finding ways to help each other and carry out these really worthwhile efforts. And then just from a slightly more capitalist callous view of things, like a really good marketing PR year for the club. They've got a ton of great coverage. Their reach is expansive. I got a message from a really nice fellow from somewhere in Northern Europe who was like, hello, I've become a Vermont Green fan. Is there promotion and relegation? How does this work? And like, just what the club's been able to do locally, globally, and just in terms of so many different metrics and views, it's been a great success. I think playoffs are like a nice bonus if it happens, but you know what, that's secondary to what we see at every home game and the responses that we get from our from our internet friends. It's been a good year.
That actually, your European friend who messaged us actually kind of segues me into kind of a question. And before I give my final thoughts, but segues me into a question that was from a friend of the pod, Kevin, who just wrote into us. He's watching our live stream, and he wanted to know how the promotion and relegation vote would affect a team in a USL2. And as I understand it, and as I think it actually is, we are a pre-professional developmental league. We're not part of that promotion and relegation situation, so that would not affect Vermont Green right now.
That's my understanding as well. I mean, these are college kids coming in, playing, and then heading back. So there's,
like and half of them, some of them are playing half the season. These are kids who are out here volunteering their time to putting a product on the field for fans. They're trying to better themselves. They're playing against heavier, harder competition. Think of it as if anybody knows baseball, like the Cape Cod League, or even our own very, very own Lake Monsters, the league that they're in, like a wood bat, pre-professional developmental league. It's good for these kids to get out there and play against tougher competition and play against other players that they might not play against in their regular college seasons or their regular club seasons if they're coming from overseas. but that's kind of where we are. My final thoughts are kind of not necessarily along the lines of just Vermont Green. I did get to watch an interview, and this is going to touch on a little mental health situation with, especially with footballers. I got to watch what one of my favorite players give an interview that was kind of saddening, because I've on my other podcasts, I've dug him out quite a bit, and that was Dele Alli, a kid who was brought up by a guy, a coach who I very, very dearly love, was my first manager of Tottenham Hotspur when I started watching. Um, I'm not going to go into the depth of the interview, but he's had a number of challenges throughout his life. He didn't get into soccer until he was later on. Typically, these kids get in at 5, 6, 7 years old. They get signed by clubs over there at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. He didn't actually start playing soccer till he was 12 because of his situation with his family and how he was brought up. And he developed mental health issues before he even became a professional player. Coming through MK Dons and then going to Tottenham, and growing through that system, and kind of just appearing on the scene, becoming an absolute superstar. And if you are successful as a player at Tottenham and you're scoring lots of goals and you're exciting to watch, like Dele Alli was, you're hated and you're loved. And mental health, we have to understand that mental health doesn't just affect the regular everyday person. It affects footballers. It affects pro athletes. It affects anyone and everyone in your life. And we have to understand, no matter how much we've dug out any of the players today, any of the coaches, that these are also human beings, and that mental health affects us all, whether it's something like anxiety, to addiction, to being abused or abusive behavior. We are all affected in some way by that. And I think it's important to recognize that. And for that, and for my part in any of the digging out of Dele Alli, for the things that I did not know about him, I mean, I kind of have to apologize, not that he cares, but like, we have to, like, I didn't understand. So we have to understand that we don't know what's going on in these people's lives when we're talking about them, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
it's a big thing for me, is mental health.
His interview was I think very brave, and I think it's a big piece and part of a larger trend that I think has been supremely positive in pro sports, which is people talking about mental health, not hiding away these issues, feeling more comfortable in addressing it and taking time off to deal with these issues, and it not being just sort of this taboo thing that you just sweep under the rug. And I think you go back 20, 30 years and there's just zero awareness or acceptance of people being like, I'm dealing with really difficult non-sports related issues that need to be addressed, and that would not have been accepted in the least, or even understood. So man, huge props to him for doing that interview. And big takeaway, you never know what other folks are dealing with. Assume the best, give them the benefit of the doubt. Amen.
I can't wait for someday to see that number 20 come back onto the field for some club and have that little smirk because he knows he got one over on you.
Well, and I mean, I feel like that's, been one of the key tenets of, our entire supporters group, is that we will not be mean. We are not going to curse out the other players. We're not going to curse out an opposing fan base. We are going to be positive. We are going to be upbeat. No hate, just love. We love the green, up the green.
Yes, I echo those sentiments. And as we take off today, I want to say, be safe, everyone out there. It's a rough world, and we have to find our way and navigate through it. So again, be safe, everyone, and